Hey Taurus, welcome back. I just finished this reading and I need to share what came through because the energy here is incredibly specific. This weekend is going to reveal something significant about a person in your orbit, and the cards are showing me exactly what's unfolding in their world while you're over here living your best life. So I shuffled with your energy in mind, asking Spirit to show me what's happening behind the scenes with this person who's been on your mind or who's been orbiting around your situation. And honestly, the first card that came out made me pause because it's so telling about where they are right now emotionally and mentally. The Empress showed up first. And this is fascinating because the Empress typically represents abundance, creativity, nurturing energy. But the way she appeared in this reading tells me something different. This person had this vision, this fantasy about how things were supposed to unfold. They saw themselves in this position of abundance, of having everything they wanted, of being the one who had it all figured out. The Empress energy here is showing me their expectations, their dreams, their vision of how life was supposed to look. And Taurus, they built this entire castle in their mind. They saw themselves winning. They saw themselves in control. They saw themselves having you or having the situation exactly how they wanted it. But here's what's interesting about the Empress in this context. She's a card of manifestation, of bringing things into being, of creation. This person believed they could create their desired reality through sheer force of will or manipulation or control. They thought they had the magic touch, that everything they envisioned would just fall into place. Maybe they've been telling themselves stories about how things would work out, how you'd come back, how the situation would resolve in their favor, how their plans would succeed. The Empress shows me they were counting on fertility, on growth, on their seeds bearing fruit. And I'm getting that this person has been sitting in this energy for a while now. They've been nurturing these fantasies, feeding these expectations, watering these hopes with their attention and energy. Every day, they've been building this vision bigger and more elaborate in their minds. The Empress is maternal, she's patient. She tends to her garden expecting a harvest. This person has been tending to their expectations like a gardener tends to plants, absolutely convinced that what they planted would grow exactly as they envisioned. But the cards are showing me that this weekend represents a turning point. This weekend is when the gap between their fantasy and reality becomes impossible to ignore. The Empress in this reading is showing me the before picture, the vision they held, the dream they nurtured. And what's coming this weekend is the moment when they have to confront the fact that their garden didn't grow the way they expected, that their creation didn't manifest, that their vision was just that, a vision, not reality. I'm sensing this person has been in a state of anticipation. The Empress is pregnant with possibility, right? She's expecting. And this person has been in that same energy, expecting, anticipating, waiting for their moment. They convinced themselves it was just a matter of time. They told themselves to be patient, to keep nurturing the dream, to keep feeding the fantasy. But what they failed to realize is that you can't force something into existence that isn't meant to be. You can't manipulate reality to match your fantasy, no matter how much you nurture that fantasy. The Empress also shows me pride. This person has pride in their vision, pride in their plans, pride in what they thought they were creating. And that pride is about to take a significant hit this weekend. Because when reality doesn't match the fantasy, when the garden doesn't bloom as expected, when the creation doesn't manifest, that's when disappointment sets in. Deep, profound disappointment. Now, the second card that came out is the Four of Pentacles. And oh, Taurus, this is where things get really revealing about this person's mindset and what's been driving them. The Four of Pentacles is about holding on, gripping tight, control, possession. This card is showing me that this person has been in a state of extreme emotional and mental rigidity. They've been holding on to their expectations with white knuckles, absolutely refusing to let go of their vision of how things should be. The Four of Pentacles is interesting because the figure in this card is literally clutching pentacles, holding them close, unwilling to release anything. One pentacle is pressed against their chest, they're sitting on another one, their feet are on two more. It's this energy of mine, of possession. of control, of not letting anything slip away. And this is exactly the energy this person has been operating from. They've been holding on to their version of reality with an iron grip, refusing to accept that things might not go their way. What's really striking about the Four of Pentacles in this reading is how it shows their scarcity mindset. This person operates from fear of loss. They hold on so tight because they're terrified of losing control, of losing their grip on the situation, of losing what they think should be theirs. And that fear has been eating at them. It's been consuming them. Every day that passes where reality doesn't match their fantasy, that fear grows stronger and their grip gets tighter. I'm seeing that this person has been trying to control every aspect of the situation. They've been scheming, planning, manipulating, trying to move pieces on the chessboard to get the outcome they want. The Four of Pentacles is strategic. It's calculated. It's about holding all the cards close to your chest and not revealing your hand. This person has been playing games, operating from a place of control rather than authenticity. And here's what Spirit is showing me about this weekend. The Four of Pentacles represents an unsustainable position. You cannot hold on that tight forever. Your hands get tired, your arms get weak, your grip eventually has to loosen. And this weekend is when their grip is going to slip. This weekend is when they're going to have to face the fact that all their controlling, all their scheming, all their holding on tight hasn't worked. They haven't been able to control the situation the way they wanted to. They haven't been able to possess what they thought should be theirs. They haven't been able to make reality bend to their will. The Four of Pentacles also shows me stagnation. This person has been stuck in this holding pattern, unable to move forward because they're so busy trying to control everything. They've been paralyzed by their need for control, frozen in place by their fear of loss. And that stagnation has been building their frustration day by day. They can feel life moving around them while they're stuck in this rigid, controlling position, and it's driving them crazy. What's about to happen this weekend is that the universe is going to show them definitively that control is an illusion, that no matter how tight they hold on, they can't force reality to match their expectations. The Four of Pentacles is going to have to open their hands and release, and that release is going to feel like loss to them. It's going to feel like defeat. It's going to feel like everything they tried to prevent is happening anyway. I'm also picking up on the possessive nature of this energy. This person has been viewing you or the situation as something they own, something that belongs to them, something they have a right to control. The entitlement is strong here. They genuinely believe they should have what they want because they want it. And this weekend is going to shatter that sense of entitlement. They're going to have to confront the fact that people aren't possessions, situations can't be controlled, and wanting something doesn't make it yours. The third card is the Ace of Swords, and this is where we start to see what's actually happening in their mental and emotional space this weekend. The Ace of Swords is about truth, clarity, breakthrough, mental revelation. It's the sword cutting through illusion and fog to reveal what's really there. And in this reading, the Ace of Swords represents the moment of painful clarity that this person is going to experience. The Ace of Swords doesn't lie. It's sharp, it's direct, it's uncompromising. And this weekend, this person is going to get hit with a truth they've been avoiding, a reality they've been denying, a clarity they didn't want. The Ace of Swords is that moment when you can't pretend anymore, when you can't keep lying to yourself, when the truth becomes impossible to ignore. And for this person, that truth is that nothing has turned out the way they expected. Their plans failed, their control didn't work, their vision didn't manifest. And you, Taurus, are not playing the role they assigned you in their fantasy. What's powerful about the Ace of Swords is that it brings mental breakthrough. But that breakthrough can be painful when you've been invested in illusion. This person has been living in a fantasy, and the Ace of Swords is the reality check that shatters that fantasy. It's like living in a beautiful dream, and then someone turns on the lights and you realize you're actually in a completely different room than you thought. The disorientation is intense. The disappointment is crushing. I'm seeing that the Ace of Swords brings a specific kind of pain. It's mental anguish. It's the pain of realizing you were wrong, of seeing how you deceived yourself, of understanding that all your schemes and plans were built on false assumptions. The sword cuts through their ego, through their pride, through their carefully constructed narrative about how things were supposed to be. And that cutting hurts. The Ace of Swords also represents new thoughts, new perspectives, new understanding. But for this person, this new understanding is unwelcome. They don't want this clarity. They don't want this truth. They've been comfortable in their illusion, safe in their fantasy, secure in their denial. And now the Ace of Swords is forcing them to see clearly, and what they see is disappointing them profoundly. I'm picking up that this mental breakthrough is going to spark their anger. The Ace of Swords can be aggressive energy. It's air element, it's mental, it's sharp. And when this person's illusions get shattered, when their fantasy gets punctured, when reality penetrates their denial, they're going to respond with mental aggression, anger, resentment, bitterness. The sword cuts both ways, and their thoughts are going to turn sharp and cutting, directed at you, at themselves, at the situation, at the universe, for not giving them what they wanted. The Ace of Swords in this position is also showing me communication. There's a strong possibility that this weekend brings some kind of message, some kind of communication, some kind of information that crystallizes everything for them. Maybe they hear something, see something, learn something that makes undeniable what they've been trying to deny. The Ace of Swords is often about that crucial piece of information that changes everything. That one fact that makes all the other pieces fall into place in a new and unwelcome pattern. What's interesting is that the Ace of Swords is supposed to be a positive card in many readings. It's about truth, justice, clarity, breakthrough. But in this context, for this person, it's devastating because the truth isn't what they wanted it to be. The clarity shows them something they didn't want to see. The breakthrough is actually a breakdown of their carefully maintained illusions. Sometimes the truth hurts, and for this person this weekend, the truth is going to hurt a lot. Now we get to the Queen of Wands, and this card is so significant in this reading because it's showing me who you are in all of this, Taurus, and it's also showing me what this person is confronting about you. The Queen of Wands is confidence, independence, charisma, self-assurance, personal power. This is someone who knows their worth, who doesn't need external validation, who radiates from within. And this is exactly the energy you've been embodying while this person has been sitting in their fantasy. The Queen of Wands is fascinating here because she represents everything this person thought they could control or manipulate. And instead they're discovering that the Queen of Wands cannot be controlled. You cannot dim her light. You cannot shake her confidence. You cannot make her doubt herself. She knows who she is, she knows her value, and she moves through the world with that assurance regardless of what others think or want or expect from her. What's coming through strongly is that this person has been watching you thrive. While they've been stuck in their Four of Pentacles energy, holding on tight and trying to control things, you've been out here living your life in full Queen of Wands mode. You've been confident, you've been social, you've been creative, you've been magnetic. And it's been driving them absolutely crazy because your Queen of Wands energy is the opposite of what they wanted from you. I think they expected you to be diminished somehow. They expected their absence, or their games, or their manipulation to affect you negatively. They thought you'd be sitting around pining, or hurting, or struggling, or somehow less than you are. But instead, the Queen of Wands shows me you've been flourishing, you've been glowing, you've been attracting positive attention and opportunities. You've been commanding respect and admiration. You've been absolutely fine without them. Better than fine, actually. The Queen of Wands is also showing me your independence. This is a queen who doesn't need anyone to complete her. She's whole unto herself. She has her own fire, her own passion, her own direction. And this person is realizing this weekend that they have no power over you, no control over you, no influence on you. All their expectations about how you'd react or what you'd do or how you'd feel have been completely wrong. You haven't played your assigned role in their fantasy at all. What's really beautiful about the Queen of Wands in this reading is how she represents authenticity. This queen doesn't pretend, doesn't play games, doesn't manipulate. She's genuine, she's honest, she's direct, and that authenticity is so threatening to someone who's been operating from control and manipulation, like the Four of Pentacles energy. Your genuine confidence and authentic self-expression has been a mirror showing them how false their own position has been. The Queen of Wands is magnetic and attractive, and I'm definitely picking up that others have been noticing you. This person is aware that you're catching attention, turning heads, making connections. And that's another layer of their disappointment. They thought they were special, they thought they had something unique with you or over you, and instead, they're seeing that you're perfectly capable of attracting whoever and whatever you want. You don't need them. You never needed them. And that realization is crushing their ego. I'm also seeing that the Queen of Wands represents your creative power and personal sovereignty. You've been focused on your own goals, your own projects, your own life. You haven't been sitting around waiting for them or focused on them or giving them the attention they thought they'd get. The Queen of Wands is busy with her own kingdom, her own vision, her own creations. And this person is realizing they're not the center of your world. Never were, never will be. The fifth card is the Two of Swords. And this is showing me the internal conflict and decision paralysis this person is experiencing as their disappointment sets in. The Two of Swords is traditionally about being at a crossroads, being stuck between two choices, being unable to see clearly because you're blindfolded. And this person is going to spend this weekend caught in intense mental conflict about what to do now that their expectations have completely crumbled. The Two of Swords shows someone sitting with crossed swords, blindfolded, near water. The blindfold represents their refusal to see the full truth, even though the Ace of Swords just cut through their illusions. Part of them still wants to deny reality. Part of them still wants to hold on to the fantasy. But another part of them is being forced to acknowledge that nothing worked out as planned. And these two parts are at war within them. What's really interesting about the Two of Swords is the stalemate energy. This person is going to be frozen in indecision. Do they reach out to you? Do they stay silent? Do they try one more manipulation? Do they finally let go? Do they double down on their control? Do they admit defeat? They're going to be going back and forth in their mind, weighing options, unable to commit to a direction because every direction feels wrong now that their original path has proven to be a dead end. I'm sensing that the Two of Swords is showing me their defensiveness as well. Those crossed swords are protective, guarding the heart, keeping emotions at bay. This person is going to be heavily defended this weekend. They're going to put up walls. They're going to close off. They're going to protect themselves from the painful emotions of disappointment and failure by going into mental defense mode. They might intellectualize their feelings, rationalize their situation, build arguments in their head for why things happened the way they did. The Two of Swords also shows me avoidance. This person is going to want to avoid facing the full emotional impact of their disappointment. They're going to want to stay in their head, analyzing, thinking, processing mentally rather than feeling the painful feelings that are trying to surface. The blindfold represents willful ignorance, choosing not to see what's right in front of them because seeing it fully would be too painful. What Spirit is showing me is that the Two of Swords is an uncomfortable position to maintain. Those swords are heavy, your arms get tired, the blindfold starts to slip. You can't stay in stalemate forever. Eventually, you have to choose a direction, drop your defenses, remove the blindfold, and see what's really there. But this weekend, this person is going to be stuck in that uncomfortable in-between place, unable to move forward, but unwilling to fully face the truth of their situation. I'm also picking up that the Two of Swords shows internal arguments. This person is going to be arguing with themselves. One part of them knows it's over, knows their expectations were unrealistic, knows they need to let go, but another part is still resisting, still holding on to hope, still thinking maybe there's a way to salvage their vision. And these internal voices are going to be loud this weekend, creating mental chaos and confusion. The Two of Swords sitting on water is significant too. Water represents emotions, and this person is trying to stay above their emotional waters, trying to not get swept away by the feelings that are threatening to overwhelm them. But the waters are rising. The emotions are getting harder to ignore. And this weekend, those emotional waters are going to be lapping at their feet, demanding attention, threatening to pull them under. The sixth card is the Three of Wands, and this is absolutely fascinating because it shows me what this person had been focused on before this weekend. The Three of Wands is about looking toward the horizon, waiting for your ships to come in, expecting returns on investments made. This person has been standing on their metaphorical cliff, looking out at the ocean, watching for their ships to arrive with the treasures they expected. The Three of Wands is planning, anticipation, foresight. This person thought they had excellent foresight. They thought they had planned everything perfectly. They thought they could see the future clearly, and their future looked exactly how they wanted it to look. They sent out their ships, meaning they took actions, they made moves, they set plans in motion, and then they waited, confident that those ships would return loaded with exactly what they wanted. What's striking about the Three of Wands in this context is the confidence of this card. The figure stands elevated, looking out with certainty, completely assured that their vision will manifest. This person has had that same confidence. They were so sure things would work out their way. They never really considered the possibility that their ships might not come back, or might come back empty, or might sink before reaching shore. They were convinced of their own foresight and planning abilities. But this weekend represents the moment when they're standing on that cliff and they realize their ships aren't coming. Or if ships are approaching, they're not the ships they sent out. They're not carrying what was expected. The Three of Wands can represent disappointment when what arrives doesn't match what was anticipated. And this person is about to experience that disappointment in a big way. I'm seeing that the Three of Wands also represents their collaboration and partnerships that didn't work out as planned. Maybe they thought they had allies, people who would help them achieve their goals. Maybe they thought you would partner with them in their vision. But the Three of Wands is showing that these partnerships or collaborations or expectations of support have fallen through. They're standing on that cliff alone, realizing the help they thought they'd have isn't coming. The Three of Wands is a card of expansion and growth, but in this reading, it's showing me expected expansion that didn't happen. This person thought their life was about to expand in certain ways. They thought opportunities were coming, doors were opening, their world was about to get bigger and better in specific ways. But this weekend, they're confronting the fact that the expansion they anticipated isn't occurring. In fact, they might be experiencing contraction instead, their world getting smaller rather than larger. What's really interesting is how the Three of Wands interacts with the earlier cards. They had the Empress vision, they held on to it with Four of Pentacles grip, and they stood in Three of Wands energy waiting for it to manifest. But the Ace of Swords has cut through that entire sequence, revealing that the vision was fantasy, the control was illusion, and the waiting was in vain. Their ships are not coming in. The Three of Wands also shows me that this person has been focused outward, watching external circumstances, waiting for external validation and results. They've been so focused on watching the horizon that they haven't been doing internal work. They haven't been addressing their own issues, healing their own wounds, working on their own growth. They've been waiting for external circumstances to change rather than changing themselves. And that outward focus has left them empty when the external circumstances don't deliver what they wanted. The seventh card is the Six of Wands, and this is where the reading gets really interesting because it shows me what they thought would happen versus what's actually happening. The Six of Wands is victory, recognition, success, public acknowledgement. This person envisioned themselves riding through the crowd on horseback, holding their wand high, receiving applause and admiration. They saw themselves winning. They saw themselves being celebrated. They saw themselves as the hero of their own story. The Six of Wands shows me the triumph they expected. They thought that by this point, they would be in a victory lap. They thought they'd have won you over, or won the situation, or achieved their goals. They pictured themselves successful, admired, recognized. The Six of Wands is that moment of public validation when everyone sees you've won. And this person has been craving that validation. They wanted to be seen as the winner, the one who got what they wanted, the one who made things happen. But here's what's so powerful about the Six of Wands appearing in this reading. It's showing me the contrast between their expectation and their reality. They expected the victory parade, but what they're getting this weekend is the exact opposite. Instead of recognition and success, they're experiencing disappointment and failure. Instead of being celebrated, they're alone with their crushed expectations. Instead of riding high, they're feeling low. The Six of Wands also shows me their ego investment in winning. This isn't just about wanting something. This is about needing to be seen as successful, as victorious, as someone who wins. Their identity has been wrapped up in achieving their goals and being recognized for their achievement. And when you invest your identity in external outcomes, when those outcomes don't materialize, it's not just disappointment. It's an identity crisis. This person is questioning who they are if they're not the victor they imagine themselves to be. I'm picking up that the Six of Wands represents comparisons too. This person has been comparing themselves to others, wanting to be seen as more successful, more desirable, more worthy. Maybe they've been comparing themselves to you, Taurus, wanting to prove they're the winner in some imagined competition. Or maybe they've been comparing themselves to other people in your life, wanting to be seen as superior. The Six of Wands is about status and recognition, and this person has been very invested in their status. What's happening this weekend is that the Six of Wands is being inverted in their experience. Instead of victory, defeat. Instead of recognition, being ignored. Instead of public celebration, private disappointment. Instead of moving forward triumphantly, feeling stuck and humiliated. The gap between what the Six of Wands represents and what they're actually experiencing is creating enormous frustration and anger. The Six of Wands is also about confidence and momentum. This person thought they had momentum on their side. They thought things were moving in their direction. They felt confident that success was inevitable. But this weekend is showing them that the momentum has shifted or never existed in the first place. And losing that sense of forward motion, that confidence in inevitable victory, is deeply disorienting and infuriating for them. I'm also seeing that the Six of Wands represents how this person wanted to be perceived by you specifically. They wanted you to see them as successful, as a winner, as someone worthy of admiration and respect. They wanted you to be impressed by them, attracted to their success, drawn to their victor energy. But your Queen of Wands energy means you're not impressed by their show. You're not paying attention to their attempts at display. You're not giving them the recognition they crave. And that lack of recognition from you specifically is a huge part of their disappointment. The 8th card is the Wheel of Fortune, and this is absolutely crucial because it's showing me that this person is experiencing a karmic turn, a shift in their fortune that they didn't see coming. The Wheel of Fortune represents cycles, karma, fate, destiny, the turning of circumstances. And for this person, the wheel is turning in a direction they definitely did not want. The Wheel of Fortune is interesting because it reminds us that nothing stays the same. What goes up must come down. What goes around comes around. This person may have felt like they were on top at some point, or that they were ascending toward the top. But the wheel has turned, and this weekend represents them experiencing the downward arc of that turn. Fortune is shifting away from them, not toward them. What's really significant about the Wheel of Fortune is the karma element. This card is about reaping what you've sown. And this person has sown manipulation, control, false expectations, dishonesty with themselves, and possibly with others. They've operated from ego and entitlement and possessiveness. And now the wheel is turning and they're experiencing the consequences of those actions and attitudes. The universe is showing them that you can't force outcomes through control and manipulation. You can't cheat karma. You can't bypass natural law. I'm seeing that the Wheel of Fortune represents the inevitable nature of what's happening. This isn't random bad luck. This isn't the universe being cruel. This is natural consequence. This is cause and effect. This person's disappointment this weekend is the direct result of their unrealistic expectations, their controlling behavior, their refusal to accept reality. The wheel turns according to universal law, and those laws are impartial and inevitable. The Wheel of Fortune also shows me timing. This weekend is not coincidental. This is a fated moment, a destined turning point. The universe has been building toward this revelation, this shift, this karmic balancing. All the previous cards in this reading have been leading to this moment where the wheel turns, and this person has to face the results of their choices and attitudes. What's powerful about the Wheel of Fortune is that it represents forces beyond our control. This person has been trying to control everything. Remember the Four of Pentacles. But the Wheel of Fortune reminds us that there are larger forces at work. There's timing we can't manipulate. There's destiny we can't override. There's karma we can't escape. And this weekend, this person is bumping up against those larger forces and realizing how small their control actually is. The Wheel of Fortune has 4 fixed signs in its corners representing stability within change. And I think that's relevant for you, Taurus. You're one of those fixed signs. While this person is experiencing the chaotic turning of the wheel, you're stable. Your Queen of Wands energy is grounded in authentic self-knowledge and confidence that doesn't waver with external circumstances. The wheel may be turning for them, but you're steady, fixed, stable in your own energy. I'm also picking up that the Wheel of Fortune suggests more changes ahead for this person beyond this weekend. This isn't a one-time event. This is the beginning of a new cycle for them, and that cycle involves learning lessons they've been avoiding. The wheel will keep turning, and they'll keep experiencing consequences until they learn what they need to learn. This weekend is just the first major turn that they can't ignore or deny. The 9th card is the Ten of Wands in Taurus. This is showing me the burden of their own creation that this person is carrying. The Ten of Wands is about being overburdened, carrying too much, struggling under weight that's become too heavy to bear. And this person has created their own burden through their expectations, their need for control, their elaborate fantasies, their schemes and manipulations. The Ten of Wands shows a figure bent over, carrying 10 heavy wands, struggling to move forward. They can barely see where they're going because they're so weighed down. And this is exactly the energy this person has been in. They've been carrying the weight of their expectations, the burden of their need to control, the heaviness of maintaining their fantasy in the face of contradicting reality. And it's exhausting them. What's striking about the Ten of Wands is that it represents self-imposed burden. Nobody is making this figure carry all 10 wands. They chose to pick them up. They chose to carry them all. They could put some down, but they won't. And this person is the same. They've created their own struggle through their refusal to let go, their insistence on controlling everything, their determination to make reality match their expectations. All that effort, all that energy, all that scheming has become an enormous burden. I'm seeing that the Ten of Wands shows the exhaustion of maintaining a facade. This person has been working so hard to maintain their version of events, to keep up appearances, to convince themselves and maybe others that everything is going according to plan. But that maintenance requires constant energy. You have to keep all the plates spinning. You have to keep all the lies straight. You have to keep suppressing the truth that keeps trying to surface, and it's wearing them down. The Ten of Wands this weekend represents the moment when the burden becomes too heavy to carry. This person is reaching their breaking point. All the weight they've been carrying, all the effort they've been expending, all the energy they've been using to maintain their illusions is becoming unsustainable. And this weekend, they're feeling that weight crushing them. Their disappointment isn't just about unmet expectations. It's about the exhaustion of carrying those expectations for so long. What's interesting is that the Ten of Wands often comes right before completion or before you're forced to put down the burden. This person is at a crisis point. They literally cannot keep carrying on the way they have been. Something has to give. Something has to be put down. They have to release some of this weight or they'll collapse under it. And that realization is part of what's making them angry. They're angry that they have to let go. They're angry that all their effort was wasted. They're angry that they carried this burden for nothing. The Ten of Wands also shows me that this person has been doing too much. They've been overextending themselves in trying to control the situation. They've been expending energy in multiple directions, trying to manipulate multiple factors, keeping track of too many moving pieces, and all of that has created overwhelm. They thought they were being strategic and thorough, but actually they've just been creating more work for themselves, more burden, more struggle. I'm picking up that the Ten of Wands represents their resistance to asking for help or admitting they can't do it all. This is someone who wanted to be the Six of Wands victor riding in on horseback. They wanted to do it all themselves so they could take all the credit. They didn't want to be vulnerable or admit they couldn't control everything. And that pride has kept them struggling under burdens they could have put down if they'd been willing to be humble and realistic. The final card is the Page of Swords. And this is showing me where this person is going to be mentally and emotionally after this weekend's disappointment fully sets in. The Page of Swords is curious, alert, vigilant, and often represents a mental state of looking for information, watching carefully, being somewhat paranoid or suspicious. And this is exactly where this person is headed. The Page of Swords shows a young figure holding a sword aloft, looking around alertly, standing on uneven ground. There's a sense of being on guard, being ready to defend, watching for threats. And after this weekend, this person is going to move into this energy strongly. They're going to be mentally hypervigilant. They're going to be watching you, watching the situation, looking for information that might help them understand what happened or give them some sense of control back. What's really interesting about the Page of Swords is the mental energy. This is someone whose mind is racing, whose thoughts are scattered, who's jumping from one idea to another. After the Ten of Wands exhaustion and burden, the Page of Swords shows a kind of frantic mental energy. This person's mind is going to be churning, processing, analyzing, trying to make sense of their disappointment, trying to figure out what went wrong, trying to develop new strategies or approaches. The Page of Swords can represent communication too, particularly communication that's defensive or sharp. I'm picking up that after this weekend, this person might reach out with communication that has an edge to it. Maybe passive-aggressive messages, maybe fishing for information, maybe trying to get a reaction from you. The Page of Swords uses their sword primarily for gathering information and defending themselves, and this person is going to be in information gathering mode. I'm seeing that the Page of Swords shows immaturity in how they handle disappointment. The page is young, inexperienced, still learning, and this person is going to handle their disappointment in immature ways. Rather than processing their emotions healthily, rather than taking responsibility for their unrealistic expectations, rather than learning and growing, they're going to be defensive, reactive, possibly petty or childish in their responses. The Page of Swords is also showing me gossip or talking about the situation to others. This person might try to control the narrative by talking to mutual friends or connections. They might try to paint themselves as the victim or you as the villain. The Page of Swords loves to communicate, loves to share information, but doesn't always have the wisdom or maturity to know when to speak and when to stay silent. And this person is likely going to be speaking when they should be reflecting. What's significant is that the Page of Swords is still holding on to their sword. They haven't put down their weapon. They're still in a defensive, slightly aggressive posture. This person isn't moving toward peace or acceptance after this weekend. They're moving toward a more alert, defensive, potentially combative state. Their anger is going to keep them sharp, keep them looking for angles, keep them engaged mentally, even if they know deep down that it's over. The Page of Swords on uneven ground is important too. This person is not on stable footing. Their world has been shaken by this weekend's disappointment. They're trying to maintain their balance, maintain their readiness, maintain their mental sharpness, but they're doing it from an unstable position. And that instability is going to make them more reactive, more defensive, more likely to lash out or make poor decisions. I'm also picking up that the Page of Swords represents a learning phase, but whether this person actually learns the lessons available to them remains to be seen. The Page has the potential to grow into the Knight, the Queen, the King of Swords, all of which represent greater maturity, wisdom, and proper use of mental energy. But that growth requires humility, self-reflection, and willingness to face uncomfortable truths. And based on the energy in this reading, this person is more likely to stay stuck in Page energy for a while, reactive and defensive, rather than reflective and wise. So Taurus, let me bring all of this together for you, because the story these cards are telling is incredibly clear and specific. This person built an entire fantasy in their mind about how things were supposed to unfold. They nurtured that fantasy with Empress energy, convinced themselves it would manifest exactly as they envisioned. They held on to that vision with Four of Pentacles death grip, refusing to let reality intrude, trying to control every aspect of the situation to force their desired outcome. They stood in Three of Wands energy, watching the horizon, confident their ships were coming in, absolutely certain they had planned everything perfectly. They envisioned themselves in Six of Wands victory mode, riding high, receiving recognition and admiration, being seen as the winner. They thought they had momentum, they thought they had power, they thought they had control over you and the situation. But this weekend, the Ace of Swords is bringing brutal clarity. The truth is cutting through all their illusions, all their fantasies, all their carefully maintained denials. And the truth is that nothing turned out as they expected. You embodied Queen of Wands energy the whole time, confident, independent, thriving, completely unbothered by their absence or their games. You didn't play your assigned role in their fantasy. You didn't need them. You didn't chase them. You didn't diminish yourself. You didn't give them the power they expected to have over you. The Wheel of Fortune is turning, and they're experiencing the karmic consequence of their controlling, manipulative approach. All their scheming, all their planning, all their attempts to force reality to match their expectations have failed. And now they're stuck in Two of Swords paralysis, mentally conflicted, unable to decide what to do next, defending themselves from the full emotional impact of their disappointment. The Ten of Wands is showing how exhausted they are from carrying the burden of their own expectations and control needs. All that effort, all that energy, all that work they put into trying to make things happen their way has been for nothing. And that realization is crushing. The weight of their failed expectations is becoming unbearable. And moving forward, they're going into Page of Swords energy, mentally hypervigilant, defensive, possibly reactive or petty. They're not moving toward acceptance or peace. They're moving toward sharp-edged mental energy, watching you, potentially reaching out with defensive or information-seeking communication, trying to maintain some sense of control, even though deep down they know it's over. What's really powerful about this reading, Taurus, is how clearly it shows that their disappointment is entirely self-created. The universe didn't do this to them. You didn't do this to them. They did this to themselves by building unrealistic expectations, by trying to control what couldn't be controlled, by refusing to accept reality, by operating from ego and entitlement rather than authenticity and acceptance. And their anger is growing each day because each day is another day where reality doesn't match their fantasy. Each day is another day where you're thriving in your Queen of Wands energy while they're struggling under their Ten of Wands burden. Each day is another day where the Wheel of Fortune continues turning away from them rather than toward them. Each day is another turn of the screw, another reminder that they're not getting what they wanted, that their plans failed, that their control was an illusion. This weekend represents a peak moment in their disappointment. It's not that things suddenly went wrong this weekend. It's that this weekend, they can no longer deny how wrong things have gone. The Ace of Swords cuts through their final defenses and forces them to see clearly. And what they see makes them angry, frustrated, disappointed, exhausted, and defensive all at once. What I want you to understand, Taurus, is that none of this is about you needing to do anything. You don't need to respond to their energy. You don't need to engage with their disappointment. You don't need to feel guilty for not playing the role they assigned you. Your Queen of Wands energy is exactly where you should be. Your confidence, your independence, your thriving, your authenticity, these are beautiful things. You're living your life according to your own values and vision, not according to someone else's fantasy about who you should be or what you should do. The cards are simply showing you what's happening in this person's internal world, so you can understand the energy that might be directed your way. If they reach out with Page of Swords communication, you'll recognize it for what it is, defensive reaction to their own disappointment rather than anything you need to take seriously. If they try to engage you in drama or pull you into their emotional chaos, you can stay grounded in your Queen of Wands energy and simply not participate. What's also important is recognizing that the Wheel of Fortune karma they're experiencing is not your responsibility to fix or soothe. They created their own situation through their choices, attitudes, and actions. The universe is teaching them lessons they need to learn, and those lessons require them to face disappointment, to confront the consequences of trying to control what isn't theirs to control, to experience the exhaustion of carrying self-imposed burdens. The most compassionate thing you can do, both for yourself and honestly for them too, is to stay in your authentic energy and let them process their own lessons. The Queen of Wands doesn't get pulled into other people's drama. She doesn't take responsibility for other people's disappointments. She doesn't dim her light to make others comfortable. She stays true to herself and lets others deal with their own reactions to her authenticity. I'm also seeing that this situation is actually showing you the strength of your own energy and boundaries. The fact that this person's attempts to control or manipulate or influence you didn't work shows that you've been solid in yourself. You haven't been swayed by external pressure. You haven't compromised your authentic self to meet someone else's expectations. That's real power, Taurus. That's real strength, and it's something to be proud of. The Ten of Wands they're carrying is not yours to pick up. Let them struggle with the weight of their own expectations and control needs. That struggle is actually what might eventually teach them to put down those burdens, to approach life differently, to develop more realistic expectations and healthier ways of relating. But that's their journey, not yours. The Page of Swords energy they're moving into might manifest as attempts to get your attention or get information about you. They might watch your social media, ask mutual friends about you, send probing messages trying to gauge where you're at or what you're thinking. Just be aware that this is likely coming from a place of their own insecurity and need for control rather than genuine care or connection. The Page of Swords gathers information to feel more secure, to feel less out of control, not necessarily to actually connect authentically. You have every right to maintain your boundaries around communication and access. If you don't want to engage, don't engage. If you don't want to provide information or updates about your life, you don't have to. Your Queen of Wands energy is self-contained. You don't owe explanations or justifications to anyone, especially not someone who viewed you as something to possess or control rather than a whole person with your own sovereignty. What I'm also picking up is that this person's disappointment might actually accelerate their processing and eventual acceptance. Sometimes we need to hit rock bottom to have our expectations fully crushed, to exhaust ourselves with futile control attempts before we can finally let go and move forward in healthier ways. This weekend might be a necessary crisis point that eventually leads them toward actual growth and change, though that's likely a longer-term process. For now, they're in the acute disappointment phase, and that's going to be uncomfortable for them. Their anger is going to be intense. Their mental energy is going to be chaotic. Their emotional state is going to be defensive and reactive. But again, none of that is your problem to solve. You can have compassion for their struggle from a distance while maintaining your boundaries and staying grounded in your own peaceful, confident energy. The beautiful thing about this reading is how clearly it validates your path, Taurus. You've been doing exactly what you needed to do. Your Queen of Wands energy has been authentic, powerful, and appropriate. You haven't played games, you haven't tried to control outcomes, you haven't built unrealistic fantasies, you've been real, and that realness has protected you from getting tangled up in this person's illusions and control dramas. Keep embodying that Queen of Wands energy. Keep being confident in who you are. Keep living your life according to your own values and vision. Keep attracting the positive attention and opportunities that come naturally to someone operating from authentic personal power. Keep your fire burning bright without apology or dimming for anyone else's comfort. The Wheel of Fortune is always turning, and right now it's turning in your favor, Taurus. While this person experiences the downward arc of facing consequences and disappointment, you're on the upward arc of thriving in your authenticity and reaping the benefits of staying true to yourself. That's not coincidence. That's not luck. That's natural law. That's karma working exactly as it should. So this weekend, while they're going through their crisis of disappointment and anger, you can just continue being your fabulous self. You can go about your life knowing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Their internal chaos doesn't have to become your external reality. Their disappointment doesn't have to dim your light. Their anger doesn't have to disturb your peace. Stay in your power, Taurus. Stay in your authenticity. Stay in your Queen of Wands energy. And let the universe handle the karma and the lessons that others need to learn. Your job is simply to keep being your wonderful, confident, authentic self and let everything else unfold as it's meant to. I hope this reading brought you some clarity about what's happening behind the scenes with this person. The energy is really specific, and the cards painted such a clear picture of their internal landscape this weekend. Remember that you're not responsible for their disappointment. You don't need to engage with their chaos. And your thriving is not something you need to apologize for or dim in any way. Keep shining, Taurus. Keep being exactly who you are. The universe has your back, and the Queen of Wands energy you're embodying is absolutely beautiful and exactly right for you right now.